who have joined VIT, congratulations, because you have chosen a temple of learning, or rather an empire of learning. Let me not confine it to temple. I call it a temple because it's very holy. I call it an empire because its boundaries are ever widening, ever growing. And not only that, born in 1984 and becoming a university in 2001, this particular institution, headed by a visionary, Dr. Thiru Viswanathan, has been of such a great eminence that everybody looks upon the products or the produce of VIT, because VIT has already become a brand mark and everybody has to reckon with it. And not only that, I'm extremely impressed with your vision statement. Now, most often we find various vision statements on the walls of every building, but nothing is taken to the heart. But here, I have a vision statement which has been taken to heart by everyone here, be it a staff or be it a student. Once you come into VIT, it grows on you so much that you wear VIT as your first skin even before you are clad in your own dress. Now, the vision statement talks about transforming everything, right? That's exactly the word which gave me the topic, education, the conscious evolution. But before I get into it, you are all freshers and masters, so already you are all proud graduates. Though you are, I won't call you a fresher, I would rather call you a raw graduate. A fresh graduate has to have something more. You are still a raw graduate because you need to know how to carry this graduation on your shoulder, this something, a coveted degree. I am not talking about just the syllabus you have completed or the curriculum you have gone through. I am talking about the weight the degree has and your shoulder, is it equipped to carry it? Fine. Now, coming to the topic, I would like to analyze it. We have got, fortunately for me, I have got 2 sessions. The first session comes to a close by 9:15 until 9:30. It's so sensible, scientifically so sensible. I would rather say it is wise for a break, so that you move away your eyes from the screen, take rest mentally and physically, bounce back with added strength for the second session. So, I have divided the topic into 2 parts, befitting the first session, asking you to go back down the memory lane to know whether you have acquired whatever I expect as a teacher for you to have got. That's the first part. And the second part happens to be, how are we going to equip ourselves for a master's degree? And how wonderful the time is, how appropriate that you have entered at the right place, at the right time, provided you have the right attitude and right stamina and right kind of philosophy to follow the masters you have taken up, whatever may be the major you have taken, right? So, the first part, when I talk about education, I always expect my students, I would rather recommend my student to have a scribbling pad, but having a paper and a pen to scribble has almost become outdated, it has become antiquated, it has become ancient, rather it has got fossilized, that only few people like us still carry a scribbling pad. We date our work before we start, but everything I think has come already handy, the whole world is in your palm. But whatever it is, I would appreciate if you make a note of certain inputs I give, because my questions are going to focus on them. Now, education, a conscious evolution. Now, leave alone the part evolution. Now, because we have got natural evolution where you don't have any control at all. Born as a babe, growing up into a young adult who has entered into VIT, you have no control over it unless you are very conscious about the calories that go in, about your appearance, right? No. Otherwise, it is an evolution on which you don't have any control, and I won't even call it an evolution, it is just growth. I am not talking about growth, I am talking about evolution. Evolution is a combination of growth and change, and that change happens to be permanent, so that in future it will be inherited down the line, it will be carried in the blood, it becomes a kind of a genetic coding, so that the rest of the generation that follows you will carry all these qualities. That's what you call an evolution, a metamorphosis, right? A little egg developing into a larva, right? That larva has, again, you can take an example of a worm or a caterpillar for that matter. A caterpillar's only business is to eat and eat and eat whatever is available, whatever it has to eat, as it has been conditioned by nature, maybe mulberry if it happens to be a silkworm, right? After which it becomes a pupa, confines itself, as we have confined ourselves, right, confines itself a kind of a natural lockdown. It cannot step outside, and the cocoon has been created by its own self. It stays within, undergoes lots of transformation so that it no longer looks a caterpillar or a worm. After some time, when everything is suitable, everything is conducive, everything is appropriate, what happens? This little worm which built a cocoon around itself makes its way outside the cocoon, comes out as an entirely different being. It can be a moth, it can be an insect, it can be a butterfly, whatever is destined for it, and the butterfly has least resemblance to the caterpillar, though the caterpillar had in hiding all the qualities of a butterfly. Now once it becomes a butterfly, there is no way of its going back to its previous appearance. Now that's exactly what nature does, and education also does the same thing, but this time it happens to be not an unconscious, uncontrolled, unguided, uncontrollable evolution. This evolution is controlled, guided, monitored, and hence I call it conscious evolution. Willingly you subject yourself to a kind of metamorphosis. Education happens to be the tool, your classroom, ambience, the ambience, and the books that have been prescribed to you, and the curriculum you go through, the culture that prevails in the institution where you are put in, the input of the teachers, the learning process, and a better process of unlearning what you have already wrongly learnt. All these convert your knowledge into wisdom. Fine. It becomes conscious, it is painful, it leaves you restless. There are aches and pains in the growing process, but only thing is you are absolutely sure that once you come out, you would never be what you were when you went inside. The input and the outcome are going to be totally different for the betterment of you and the society where you live in. That's exactly why I chose the word very consciously, a considered thought, if I can put it that way. Conscious evolution. It's a metamorphosis brought upon by an individual on himself or herself for an improvement, so that once one generation starts it as a conscious evolution, and if the generations continue to make education a conscious evolution, you know, if I can go back to Darwin, if he proves right in this also, not the visible evolution, the invisible intellectual evolution, emotional evolution, evolution of your intelligence, then I expect the future generation would be an evolved one if the evolution commences with you. We put that aside. Now coming back to, as I started with this statement, I would like to really make you introspect. How suitable are you to wear the cloak of a master's degree holder, right? How appropriate it is on your shoulder, for which you should have been equipped with your undergraduation syllabus, curriculum, your learning process, everything. Because graduation is too heavy for anybody to carry, especially in India. You may come upon lakhs and lakhs of graduates, but how many of us are ready to carry it? As I told you, the vision statement has to be inside my heart. The walls of my heart have to carry the vision statement, not the walls of the institution. If that is the thing, I divide your education, what you had already, just asking you certain questions so that you introspect. You need not give me an answer, you have to give yourself an answer and see how suitable you are. You would have had an entrance examination, your previous track record of 5 semesters of scores or 6 semesters of score or 7 semesters of score, all these would have convinced the people to give you a seat in such a reputed institution. But that is only what the eyes can see. I cannot fathom your intelligence. I can only test it on certain grounds, certain parameters which are tangible. My questions are going to be totally intangible. You alone know, and only you have to know about it. So starting with, I divide it into 3 parts now. The first one is about your domain knowledge. You might have taken a subject and just relax as you are listening to me. Just unwind yourself and ask this question. When you crossed your higher secondary level, we call it in Tamil Nadu +2 level, once you go past it and find yourself eligible to enter into a degree program, and you have spent not less than 6 semesters there, fine. If that is correct, What exactly is your domain knowledge of that particular subject? It can be science, it can be commerce, it can be technology, it can be arts, whatever it is. I'm not going to ponder over the subject you have chosen. I'm asking you about the domain knowledge. If you are a mathematics major student, you should be at least, I won't say this percentage of thoroughness. Either you're thorough or you're not thorough. There is no degrees of comparison in certain things, especially not in education. You should have become thorough with whatever has been prescribed to you. It's not 80%, 90% or 98% of mark. I am talking about whatever was prescribed to you. Do you have the domain knowledge of it? If anybody approaches you with a problem, are you in a position to answer the question? Are you in a position, let alone answering the question? Are you ready to face the question? Are you ready to take the question? Think over it, find out an answer. Do you have the methods of finding out an answer? Because I personally believe, as a teacher, we don't teach you anything in the class, we rather teach you to learn in the class. As a result of which, the syllabus never becomes outdated. If you have been prescribed to a particular book and you have confined yourself to a particular book, fine, your degree will become outdated because the shelf life will be very, very less. But if my degree got in 1980 should be valid in 2020, I should not have learnt few books, I should have learned to learn in my complete life. So it becomes a continuous process. So whatever is your major, do you have the domain knowledge of it? Do you know how to learn physics or maths or commerce or whatever it is? Or have you just learnt what the books prescribed? In domain knowledge, do you have the depth of knowledge? Maybe you were the first batch when the syllabus changed. You might belong to an autonomous institution or an institution which is affiliated to a university, whatever may be the thing, right? Nature. My question is, do you have the depth of knowledge? What do I mean by depth of knowledge? I have joined a particular program, the previous year it was a different syllabus, this year it's a different syllabus. Did you ever spend any time in thinking over what has been deleted from the previous syllabus and what has been added into my new syllabus and why it has been done? It is just not the matter of the board of studies with few professors or the academic council with the heads of the institution. It's a matter of every consumer, because you are a stakeholder. You are a stakeholder. You are not the produce of VIT. You know what is the produce of VIT? VIT's produce is its syllabus, is its educational ambience, is its culture. Anybody can prescribe the same syllabus, but only in VIT you get the totality of that syllabus. So syllabus is not books. So you are not the produce, you are a stakeholder, you are a consumer of your institution. Have you ever thought why certain things were deleted from the previous syllabus, why certain things have been added, and why you have been asked to learn something in a new way? The text has been changed, the technology has been changed, the testing material has been changed, the tools have been changed. Have you ever thought over it? If you have thought over it and gone back to the portion which has been deleted in your previous syllabus, gone through it, just to know what made it get outdated, why it became obsolete and why something has come in, then you have depth of your domain knowledge. If you have not done it, at least start doing it in your master's degree, because most of us become very thorough. Once we complete our degree, we become very thorough with our 10th standard syllabus. Once we complete our master's degree, we become very thorough with our +2 syllabus, right? So what happens? Nothing wrong, you can go back. You can go back, because once we live, let us live on our terms. Once we get education, let us get ourselves educated, an evolutionary education, a revolutionary education, if you so wish. Okay, now that I take it as a word from you, that is, your depth of knowledge is guaranteed. Go back to the second one. The second one is width of knowledge. The width of knowledge is, what about the ancillary subjects you have taken? Are they merely ancillary supportive prop routes, or is there something very serious about certain subjects being prescribed to you as ancillary subjects? Have you gone beyond that? Had you been in an autonomous institution, and if you have taken commerce major, and if it is pure commerce, the traditional orthodox classical commerce, but there are other commerce also which have come out of this route, that is the mother plant. Okay, have you gone out to that section? It can be corporate secretaryship, it can be with computer application, it can be with marketing, right? And have you gone to those majors as a pure commerce major student to find out what are all the papers, including BBM? Have you gone into that to see what are all the extra papers they do, and will it do any help to you so that you also get those extra papers, take extra papers and make your commerce, the orthodox, classical, traditional commerce paper more complete? Have you ever tried it? Or have you ever verified your syllabus with the syllabus which is prescribed by other universities and colleges? Please do not give me an answer, ma'am, we find it extremely difficult to go through our own syllabus, leave alone going. That's exactly why I said this is a conscious evolution. It will be very painful, but we know pretty well. The little worm inside a cocoon is not comfortable. We have never interviewed that worm. Had we had a chance to interview, it will tell how suffocating it is, how it puts up with all possible problems, not knowing what is happening outside, confining itself to that little cocoon so that it will be fit enough. As you say in your resume, you are a right fit, right? To become a right fit to face the challenges of the outside world as a butterfly, it has to inflict pains upon itself and call it a kind of a resurrection, an evolution, a metamorphosis. So check whether you have got the width of knowledge. So depth of knowledge, if you have, I am sorry as an answer, I accept it. Width of knowledge, if you are doubly sorry that you went nowhere near it, thank you. And the third one is the contemporary relevance of the subject that has been prescribed to you 3 years back or 6 years back or 10 years back or decades back. I do not know how old and antiquated the syllabus is. Check whether it is contemporary. When I say contemporary, is it relevant with your degree in your pocket or the degree which you are yet to get? Fine. Can you face 2020 challenges of India? If you have learned to learn, you will come out of the shock very quickly and look at it as a wonderful, wonderful chance for you. You will say, yes ma'am, my syllabus was ready, the teaching was ready, fine, the testing was also very, very contemporary. Are you socially relevant? Are you socially contemporary? Or, to put it in a very blunt way, what is the shelf life of your degree? What is the shelf life? Can you manage to face? So that is third question I have to ask. So depth of knowledge, width of knowledge and the contemporary relevance of knowledge. And the fourth one of the domain knowledge is very challenging. How futuristic you are. Did you anticipate a 2020 like this? Were you prepared for it? Have you been taken unguarded? Right? If you have been taken unguarded in the most unguarded moment, why should we call ourselves educated? What do you mean by education? Education is the capacity to face challenges. Education is the problem solving capacity. If a layman on the road is as shocked as you are, what is the big issue in giving you an education for 3 years or 4 years? Expending money, expending time, expending energy, expending our dreams on an individual who is as shocked as an ordinary person on the road. Fine. So just check all these, go in for an introspection. You are getting into a university which is going to be very, very demanding, very compelling, right? In spite of the fact it's going to be extremely conducive. How many extra miles do you run? That's exactly what it matters. Have you equipped yourself with the running shoes that will compel you to run a longer distance? Every one of you, after 2 years, 4 semesters, after having completed your degree, you will all be facing an entirely new world of 2022 or 23. Fine. If you are not equipped to face 2020, how futuristic are you going to be? And don't just be a dreamer. I think most of us are not dreamers. We just stop with desiring over something. We are very desirous of something. Desire is different from dream. Desire is made of thin air. Desire will evaporate. But dream is something totally different. Dream has got an action plan. Dream is willingness to work. Dream is every day sustaining the stamina so that you are drawn closer to your dream. But desire is just a desire, that's all. A desire is made of ether. It doesn't concretize itself to become something. So my first question of domain knowledge, please verify, please check. Maybe still you have got few more days for the classes to commence. Maybe Monday your classes commence. When you go sit in your class, for the lecturer to start with, he is not going to dig deep into the questions which I asked you now. They have to complete their syllabus, they have to be updated, fine. So when that is the case, without any foundation, you cannot construct castles. If you construct castles, it will be just castles in mid-air. It will collapse at the next moment you have another pandemic or some kind of a natural disaster, because you're totally unprepared. Education is the weapon, education is the shield to protect you and to face the challenges against all odds, right? So the domain knowledge part is taken care of, or should be taken care of. I don't take care of it. Thank you. My business is just to be an arrow mark to tell you this is where you have to go, this is where things went wrong. Maybe I'm like a thermometer. Thermometer has to talk about only the temperature hike, and it doesn't prescribe any medicines. It's not the business of a thermometer or a stethoscope to prescribe medicines, because that has to be done by the doctor. And now as a student and a consumer, a stakeholder, you have to doctor yourself, you have to tailor yourself, you have to get ready before maybe within 4 days you will be in another place where you really start feeling like a master's degree student. Please equip yourself. Do not go into an arena ill-equipped without the proper tools you have to have, right? The second part of the thing is, how different is your communicative skills since you started from your higher secondary? It can be any tongue. It can be your mother tongue, it can be other tongue, right? Have you equipped yourself for the challenges? Have you improved your communicative skills? What about your body language? What about your listening? What about your speaking? What about your reading? What about your writing? Have you improved? How is your vocabulary? Have you enriched yourself? Are you a better listener now? Because now it is online. At least in the classroom, the body language of the participant will be visible. It is only guessable now. Maybe as an experienced person for 35 years of teaching experience, I can always guess. Certain things never change in a student. A student remains a student, whatever may be the time. Okay, I know at this particular point, after 20th minute, there will be a yawn. And if the student happens to be occupying the first bench, the student will be striving desperately to stifle the yawn, to look brightly at nothing, so that the teacher can be carried away by the brightness and the halo around the head of the student. As an experienced faculty, I know the student is trying desperately not to look bored. Getting bored is different from looking bored. But have you become a more participating listener? Listening is not a passive activity. Listening is a participating activity. Now I can say that I lecture only when I have an audience, only when I have listeners. Speaking does not exist when there is no listening at all, right? So listening is not just a passive activity, it's a productive activity, it is a participating activity. So how many of us are better listeners than what we were in our higher secondary? As an 18-year-old, our listening was totally different. But you have been put into an educational program for 6 semesters, helping you to focus to the point, grasp whatever is very, very important from the lecture, from the silence of the teacher, from the speech of the teacher, and the silence that is punctuated in and around, or this silence that falls in between words when the teacher gives a nod, when the teacher keeps quiet or takes a pause or gulps down the saliva. You know what exactly it is even without a word being spoken. Have you become a better listener? Are you able to listen with your third eye? When I say third eye, have you started listening with your eyes? Have you started listening to the body language of the person? Whether if the teacher insists on a particular one, the teacher will add more of stress to certain words. Have you opened up your inner ears for that? Now, what about your vocabulary? Has it improved? Still you just get stuck with basically, naturally, absolutely, wow, awesome. Now these are the words which I find with young adults. Fortunately or unfortunately, English is extremely rich and there is a huge dictionary and everything looks cute at your age. But we do not even know what is the difference between something cute and which is not so cute, or the cutest. You have got loads and loads of words. And these have not been created for you, by you, they are created for you. They have not gained currency at all, they still stay in the dictionary. What are we going to do? They are in the human language. Generations have created brilliant, new, expressive, complete words. so that we can express our feelings at least 50% through those words. Have you ever tried on that? Has your vocabulary, word power improved after you took to your degree? Then third one is, what about reading? How good you are as a reader. I am not asking about your study habits. It's certainly not my business. You study because you have no other choice. I am asking about your reading habits. How good are you as a reader? Do you have your own corner where you have the books? I am not again talking about the prescribed books. Now, I always love, as a language teacher, I always love to teach my students, not to teach with my students. I mean, I would rather share with my students the syllabus. So, if a particular poet is prescribed and a particular poem is prescribed, I will not be handling that poem in my class. I will be rather handling the poems written by the same poet, the other poems written by the same poet, introducing the child to the mindset of the writer, so that the child will rush back to the poem that has been prescribed, which will be discussed in the class, so that you get a holistic idea of the writer. I think it holds good with all the subjects. It's not only language. Language is more difficult because you do not know the outcome, how exactly the child will understand. But in science, it can be tested in the laboratory. In accountancy, again, it can be made tangible. So, if that is the case, how good are you as a reader? Have you read, if you are a science major student, who are all the Nobel laureates and what could be their biography? Have you ever gone beyond the portals of the syllabus? If that is the case, how quick are you in reading? Because when we talk about Swami Vivekananda, everybody appreciates him. You know why? Because even if a voluminous book is given to him, he hardly needs few minutes to glance through them, to skip, to scan, to skim, to do everything. He just scans through the whole book, and within few minutes he could grasp what is the essence of the book, and he can deliberate and discuss over the same author with absolute ease with anybody who calls himself a scholar, right? We need not go to that extent, but at least we have to go halfway. We have been given education. So, as a reader, how quick are you? How many words do you cover within few minutes? How many pages? How often do you reread? Because just glancing through a page doesn't mean reading. How often do you ask yourself questions? Or if you are a good reader, after the subject is completed, in your study habit, you would set a question paper than answer the question paper. Hope you understand what I am trying to tell. Your assignment should not be answer a question. Your assignment should be write probable questions from this unit. It can be multiple choice, it can be paragraph, it can be essay. If you can write even one single question more than what your teacher could guess, you have done a better job. That is what you call a good reader to be. And what about writing? Can you logically sequence sentences? Convincingly write? Or do you always take the help of your system to provide you with sentences, to provide you with spellings, to provide you with grammar? It's unfortunate, right? So, the second part is also over. So, we started with the first one. The first one happens to be domain knowledge, and the second one happens to be communicative skills. And the third part of the first session is, what about your attitude? This is something very important. Your attitude decides your altitude. Fine. Thanks a lot to Mr. Shivkera. Your attitude decides your altitude. So, the book You Can Win would have been sold away in millions and millions and millions. But how many of us have taken it seriously to heart? Every other sentence is quotable. You take a highlighter, underline every sentence, and you make it, yes, I am going to follow this, I am going to follow this. And what about your resolutions? Most of them have a very short innings for life. They die an easy death, a natural death on the 48th hour of their birth. My question is, what about your attitude? How healthy it is, how positive it is, even during this moment of pandemic. How many of you can still enjoy the luxury of a very positive attitude? How many of you feel this is the right time? How many of you feel that you are very fortunate to be in 2020 at the portals of your master's degree, because by the time you complete your degree and come out, everything will be totally changed It has already started changing, more than 4 months. Lockdown is more than 4 months old, 4 months plus 5 days. And are we going to still lament and grumble about, complain about our incapacity to imagine? Aren't we blessed with imagination? And when I say, what about your attitude? Think of certain ideas. It's not mere thinking. I would rather say dream of certain ideas, because thinking, we mistake thinking for just imagination. If there is an action plan for every thought of yours, it becomes a dream. And don't just dream. If your attitude is healthy, if your attitude is positive, if your attitude is very productive, proactive, not reactive. Most of us are very angry with pandemic, or we just grumble, or we throw ourselves and we become desperate and distressed. Fine, 1 foot to suicide. That's how we stand. Certainly not. If you are a person with progressive, positive attitude, then you would dream, and the dream, you know what you would do? You would infuse energy into that dream, and you will visualize your dream sitting there in your house or in the hostel comfortably with a laptop or with your Android in your hand. You will just not stop with dreaming. As I keep talking to you, you will just carry my words and you will start visualizing your dream. In 2002 or 2003, when I step out, this is how I will be, and this is what I will be, and this is what I would be capable of. I will not call you a master's degree holder. I mean, generally I used to say engineering graduate is different from an engineer. If the institution is going to produce only an engineering graduate, what has India got to do with engineering graduates? We need engineers, people who are very sure of themselves, people who have plans in their head, people who know how to act, people who do not react but respond, people who do not react but act. If that is the case, your attitude is imperative. So your dream infused with vision. Imagine the complete scene. If you imagine yourself to be an entrepreneur, if you imagine yourself to be a job provider, imagine it. Imagine yourself to be seated in a particular place, giving orders, giving instructions, giving suggestions, giving ideas to a battalion of staff, telling them, motivating them, helping them to put out their best. That is what you call a leader to be. A leader is not one who shows his expertise. A leader is one who helps the other people to discover their talents, to feel good in his presence, to feel complete in his presence, to feel adequate in his presence. If that is the case, please infuse your dream with vision. Look at it, visualize it. Close your eyes and see what you have to see. Even the unseen should be visible. Look behind the beyond and add something more to your attitude. It is dream, and the dream you visualize. And the third one is pump in passion into it. If you are not passionate about what you dream, if you are not passionate about your vision, it dies a very, very early death, or sometimes it even becomes a stillborn. Unless you are born, you can never undergo an evolution, right? So you start nurturing it as a dream. Become a visionary, visualize it, and then you add passion to it. That becomes the last part, that is your attitude. Now coming back to whatever I have been telling you. Fine, I think I have got 5 minutes to go now, right? 9:15. So this is what happens to a teacher. The teacher is never happy unless the summing up is taken. There has to be an introduction, there has to be a content, and enter the stage, perform, before exit, what are all the things to be done. Have it in your mind, have the plan in your mind. So we started with your institution, where you have entered, why you have entered there, and what you would become. And if you are still in the stage of a caterpillar, right, it's time you started looking inwards and start growing, going for a metamorphosis, going for a conscious evolution, because you are a part of the reputed institution, and 2 years later you carry the badge and the banner of VIT with you. It's a brand name. It'll go with you, but are you fit enough to carry it? That's one. Then we talked about the 3 phases of holding your graduation. One is your domain knowledge. Are you thorough with it? that is the depth of knowledge, width of knowledge, contemporary relevance of the knowledge, and futuristic, because India has come to a point where Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam said 2020 India will be a superpower. Still we have 4 months, still we have to overtake. We are running along with people. Who should run along with people? We should run before. We should be the torch bearers. Still we have time, still we have ample time, because every day still has 24 hours which could be converted into nanoseconds. Voluminous, still in store, still unused, right? So depth of knowledge, width of knowledge, contemporary relevance of knowledge, and future, right? Second part of it was communicative skills. Have you become more eloquent with the learning? Have you become better listener, a better speaker, better reader, and better you can communicate better with your written text. Thank you. And the third part happens to be attitude, the right kind of attitude. Be at the right place with the right attitude, with the right qualification, and you will be selected. Others will call it luck. I call it conscious evolution called education. So I get back to Veda ma'am. Are we close to the first session getting to a close, or do I have still 2 or 3 minutes? I have to welcome the students back to class, if I can call it a class, right? So a very quick recap. It will hardly take 2 minutes, but nonetheless I have to have a recap. As a good teacher, you wind up at a particular point, start at the same point, so that the children will find it easy to catch up. So we had, as the host, the anchor told, we did talk about domain knowledge, and again I helped you to understand whether you are deep enough and whether you are wide enough, and whether your contemporary knowledge with the contemporary degree you have got in your hands, can you face the challenges of 2020 the whole world is facing, or else why at all did we get our education, and then how futuristic we are. Then we did talk about our communication skills, in which body language is something very important. I talked about listening with an extra ear and seeing with an extra eye, how good you are as a listener and a speaker. Of course, your communication in reading and writing. And remember, maybe I just slipped off one point, the listening part of it and the reading part of your learning process, communicative skill, can never be measured, right? They are not visible activities. Spoken is visible, written is visible. The invisible aspects which add strength and stamina to these two skills, the visible skills of spoken and written, happen to be the invisible skills of listening and reading. If you are a good listener, you become a better speaker. If you are a good reader, you become a better writer. Then we did talk about progressive, proactive and productive attitude. And if somebody tells that you have an attitude, most of us mistake it for something negative. If somebody says you have got an attitude, I'll say thank you. I have an attitude because I can afford it. Not that everybody can have an attitude. Even to have an attitude, you have to work for it. Look at it as a positive side. Fine. Now we move on. We move on to the second part of my education, the conscious evolution. If you remember me asking whether you got a scribbling pad with you, right? I do not know whether you got me or you got the scribbling pad during the little break we had. If that is the case, I would appreciate if you write down educated with the spelling, as because I am a language teacher, I just don't pronounce the word, I go in for the spelling also, because the pronunciation may be different from the spelling, because it happens to be English, that's why. So educated, education, and from there you derive the word educated, anybody who has got education. It's not degrees, I am not talking about degrees. Degrees, universities give degrees and classrooms give you education. There is so much of a difference. So it is educated. It's educated, I put it in the past tense, but a progressive past tense. If that is the case, what does each letter stand for? You need not write it down, you need not even try writing it down. I can just give you a hint of what I feel to be an educated person, a holistic person. If that is the case, for me, E stands for excellence, as it happens to be a word which is found in your, your vision statement. You would like to excel in everything. And that is something better, because I am not aspiring for perfection, I am aspiring for excellence. Because what is perfection in your point of view may be different from my point of view. And I do not want to be perfect, because perfection happens to be a state of stagnation from where there is no progress at all. As long as I am imperfect, and as long as I know I am imperfect, there is always a tremendous scope for me to move ahead. If I become absolutely perfect today, I will not even peep into my tomorrow to see what it has gotten reserved, because I have achieved my perfection. But excellence is a kind of rolling benchmark. Excellence is not static. Excellence is dynamic. What was excellent yesterday may not be excellent today. It would just be ordinary today, which gives me again a huge scope, a huge arena for progression. So if E is educated, E is for excellence. You aspire excellence. If D, educated D, for me it stands for diligence. Diligence, how guarded I am, how I conscious I am of what I have taken as my project, right? How mindful I am, a very diligent attitude, very guarded attitude, very always ready to accept challenges. You can never catch me off my guards. That's a diligent attitude. So an educated individual is always alert, always situationally alive, always awake. Maybe that is exactly what Swami Vivekananda asked when he asked you to arise awake and stop not till the goal is reached. So to arise from within and to stay awake from within and without, for me, D happens to be diligence. Then education, DU, U is for already when Veda ma'am asked me the question, I gave her the answer. Standardized tests, standardization of tests, I gave her the answer. U for me is unique. Education, the U refers to me, YOU. So when somebody takes a U-turn, I would rather say U-turn, YOU-turn, because unless you turn, you can never turn from what is destined for you. So U is for unique. No, it's exclusively unique. The education given may be same for everyone. Even the teaching may sometimes be the same for everyone. The teacher might have cracked the same joke to the previous class and may crack the same joke here and to the next set, also saying that at least the students vary, though not the joke and the teacher. That's not the case. U is for unique. It is just one time password. If it is identity given, it is just one time identity, after which you will never get a chance. So we started today at 8:30. Never in my life will I get back to 29th of July 8:30 of 2020. It's gone. That's all. How well did I use? So it is something unique, and if you want to make another word, it's ultimate, after which there is nothing. So AEDU, C for me is not compassion, it's courage. The courage to stand up and voice out your views, the courage to say what is right according to your perspective. And if your perspective is wrong tomorrow, with all your understanding, what holds right to you today may not be right tomorrow. You may grow wiser, you may be more experienced, your mind will open up more, and you feel that it wasn't completely correct, it was only partially correct. The courage to stand up and accept that yesterday I was myopic, I was a bit short-sighted, I didn't know. When I look at it from this side after 24 hours, it looks totally different. So the courage to accept that what you said yesterday is not holding right today. People may think you can never be trusted. Don't worry. Only when you say that you have not said what you said, you can never be trusted. When you accept that I did say that yesterday, but today I stand different, I have an entirely different view, people can trust you because you acknowledge that you have evolved into a better person. That's why I said it's a conscious evolution. Openness, right? Education, CA. A again already I have given you. Educated, A stands for the attitude. The attitude you carry, the positive attitude you carry. It can be affection, it can be accessibility, I can even say accountability, but anybody who is diligent, anybody who is aspiring for excellence will always, anybody who has a courage to acknowledge the mistakes the person has committed, the person will positively be accountable. So educated, for me, A stands for attitude. And T, I have already made a mention, trustworthy. Trustworthy, it's not just your word, it's your thought, your action, everything is in beautiful unison. You are such an integrated individual. And A can be autonomous also, it's not the institution's autonomy, it is the individual's autonomy. Accountability. So T stands for being trustworthy. And the next E, the past tense ED, E stands for empathy. Your education is absolutely incomplete. It is unnecessary, it becomes irrelevant if you are not an empathetic human being. Empathy is not sympathy. Most of us mistake it for sympathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry for somebody's plight. Empathy is feeling like the person in that particular plight, to understand, stepping into the shoes of the person. When a child comes up to the teacher saying that I find it extremely difficult to sit and concentrate in my class because of these problems, if the teacher can put himself or herself in the shoes of the student and look at life as a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old with all those problems crowding around, the teacher will know what it is to sit and try concentrating in a class when so many cross thoughts are going inside the mind. Fine, it's extremely difficult. The student may be quiet, the student may be silent, but silence in the class does not mean concentration. That's why I said, when you are with communication, please read the student's body language or the teacher's body language. E is for empathy. Empathy is feeling like the other person. No, it's not feeling for the other person, it's feeling like the other person. And the last D is devotion, dedication, you put it anyway. All these make my education into something holistic, something complete, but yet, though it is complete at the given point of time, there is always scope for it to become more complete and more holistic, because I have another day waiting for me with all the nanoseconds waiting so that I can expand it. So I define education this way today at this given point of time. Tomorrow ask me what exactly education stands for or what do you mean by educated, I would have gone for another thing. Thanks a lot to the experience thrown at me by life, the experience which I absorb happily so that I can enrich myself. So E can stand for enrichment also. It's purely your way of looking at life. Now coming back, I said it is a conscious evolution. You evolve and there is metamorphosis. It is mental, it's physical, it is emotional, it is intellectual. All these not happening one after the other, happening all together. No, because time is not there for us to emotionally evolve first, then physically evolve next, then socially become relevant. No, everything has to happen at the same time, but they all have to happen. It's not like multitasking, it's doing one particular job, but having everything totally absorbed towards you. So you emotionally evolve into a better being, you intellectually evolve into a better being, you socially become more relevant, fine, and you are very productive and you also imagine your future. If that is the case, as master's degree students who are to start with your classes coming Monday, if that is the case, just again visualize how will you be after the course is completed, after you go out with the brand mark of the brand name of VIT on you. Wherever you go, they will look at you only as a VITian. I think that's how you call yourself. I do not know. How do you call yourself? I do not know, but had I been given the name, I'll say I'm a VITian. I belong to, like your IITian, this is a VITian. We belong to the place. Whether you speak or breathe or whatever you do, that represents VIT. How many of you know where to sell the skills which you have developed from this campus? This is an academic ambience. The curriculum is different from syllabus, as I told you already. Syllabus confines itself to books. Curriculum is a learning ambience, the learning atmosphere that is being provided by a particular institution, and that's exactly where one institution differs from the other institution. How conducive it is, how compelling it is, how demanding it is. If that is the case, right, where are you going to market your skills? You will positively sharpen your skills. You will learn and unlearn both at the same time. Learn something new and unlearn what you have wrongly learned. But in this process, you will accumulate more and more of skills and sub-skills and sub-skills, sub-skills, right? Where are you going to market them? Do you know there is a market outside? And people may call it a problem, some people may call it a challenge, but I call it a market where you are expected to sell what you have. As you are a stakeholder now, right? Another person will become a stakeholder and will be looking forward to your commodity. It can be your plan, it can be your idea, it can be your words, it can be the job which you offer somebody, whatever it is. You have something to give, you have something to sell, and you are looking out for takers. My question is, how many of you know where to sell, where to market your skills, your talent? You cannot be selling it away in a place where people do not even know what the skill is, right? Though we always say We say that two salespersons went to a place where with shoes. You always have the story. You say that one person found that the island where people, the inhabitants of the island never knew what it is to wear a shoe or a sandal. So he thought there is no point of opening a shoe shop there. But then another one said, sir, nobody knows anything about shoes here. We have to introduce, so we have got a huge market. I am not talking about that kind of a market. I am talking about a market where people know that you are equipped. People have selected you because you have all this in your profile. You have you make a statement, right? You call it career objective. So by the time you finish your masters, you would have come to know the difference between what a job is and what a career is, right? As MCom, you have students, if you take up a job in bank, fine, the position you occupy is a job, but banking becomes your career, right? If I become a teacher in future, right, if in that case teaching becomes my career, whether I am an assistant professor or associate professor or a reader or a professor, that is something totally different. Teaching becomes my career. So you will understand the difference between what a career is, what the demands of the career could be, and what a job is, right? If you are going to change from one job to another job, your skill set can be the same. But if you are going to change from one career to another career, from an academic career, if I have to head an institution, I become an administrator, then my skill set has to be different. My selling technique has to be different. My question is, have you identified your market? Because if you start thinking now, it is called thinking process. But if you start thinking when you are in the 4th semester, it's called anxiety, right? So when you are at the threshold of leaving, then you start thinking, it becomes anxiety. It rather you start complaining and you start grieving because you have not visualized, you have not added passion to it, right? Now coming back to this, I would like to tell a story to you. I have been narrating this story to school children, asking them again to equip themselves so that they sell their commodity at the best of the best markets, to the best of the best buyers. Okay, maybe a little lad, he came up to his father and asked, Appa, what is the value of my life? I use the word Appa, I don't call father. Even now I don't call father, I call my Appa only. Whatever may be the language, I think you can use mother tongue to talk about the relation. Fine. So he just asked his father, Appa, what is the value of my life? The boy is hardly 10 years old, and the father was really surprised and happy because the little boy could come up to him and ask a question which is much above his head. The question has gone already for a sixer. We do not know where the ball is. But the father felt so happy that the little one could come and ask this particular question. The mother was very worried. What happened to my son? He was sane and sensible till he finished his breakfast. All of a sudden he comes and asks, what is the value of my life? But his father said, don't worry. Today happens to be Friday, right? Tomorrow is Saturday. We'll discuss the problem tomorrow. So the next day morning, the boy again came. The boy thought his father was evading away the question. And children come with the same question. If they know that the other person does not give the answer, they remember the question. If the person gives an answer, they will forget the question and the answer. But here, the question has not been answered. So the boy comes running to his father, and his father says, wait a second, right? The boy is yet to have his breakfast. The moment he woke up, he brushed his teeth, washed his face, ran to his father. Appa, you told me that you will give me an answer for the question. The father said, the question is very, very difficult. It's highly philosophical, right? So you have to undergo a bit of a practical session before you internalize it. So the father went inside and brought something inside a small box, put it in his palm and said, I'm sorry, you're not going to have your breakfast. You can carry a bottle of water, but today happens to be Saturday and there is a local shandy, that is marketplace. Local shandy on Saturday. Vegetables will be sold, every other odd item will be sold, and all the villagers would gather there to buy. Okay, you go there and you will not even have your breakfast. All you can have is only your water bottle along with you. Amma is very worried because she doesn't want the child to be starving, but the father would like him to undergo even the experience of hunger so that you learn better. So his father just says, you take this and go, but you have to give me a promise. That is, when somebody asks you a question, you will never ever open your mouth. You will just put out this two. That's all you will, right? Let them understand the body language and comprehend whatever they want to, right? You don't open your mouth, you stay there till the evening, till the shanty closes. It opens at around 8:30 and goes till 5:30, and you come back home and narrate the whole incident to me. If you feel like drinking water, you drink water. And where will you stand? You will stand where the garbage, where the rotten vegetables are all dumped. Okay, there will be mosquitoes, there will be flies, the place will be extremely untidy, it will be unhygienic. Okay, people will shun the place because there will be foul stench, people will go away, move away from you. But again, you stand there, right, and hold this in your hand. There is something precious kept inside a little box, like a jewel box. You open and stand there, and when somebody asks, just do this and let them decipher what you mean by your body language. The boy is very happy. He takes his water can alone because he cannot get dehydrated when the whole project is on. He runs, he stands where his father wanted him to stand, and people start going past him. They gather, they stop near him. Look at, he's a little boy, people are taller than him. They need not even peep into a hand. They have to look down into this little boy's hand. There is something very shiny, glittery object inside the little box he has, and they look at it very curiously. They look at him, they look at the place where he is standing. Fine, everything is most unbecoming, certainly not suitable. So people move away from the stench because they can't bear it. They move away from the dirt and ask him, how much? They don't even ask what is it, they just ask how much. The boy just puts out his hand. They immediately say, 20 rupees, you have just picked out some kind of a pebble and polished it, and you keep inside a little box and you want 20? Not bad at all. Little children are up to all possible games to make money. So each one has his or her share of scolding, and they just move away. Little boy gets only this experience repeated. It's again and again. Now by 5 o'clock, the boy is very tired. He drinks down the last sip of water, runs back home. His mother collects him. Mother complains how he has completely become dark. Okay, mother is more worried about the physical change, and she gives him some food, but father wouldn't even allow him to eat the food. Father says, first narrate the experience and then you can satisfy your hunger. The boy is also equally brave, and the boy says, Appa, this is what happened. People went past me, they stood near me, they just wrinkled their nose, frowned, and they were not very happy with the place where I was standing, and they asked me, they didn't even ask me what I have in my hand, though I do not know what I had in my hand. They asked me and I just put out my hand and I just said to. And people said, 20 rupees? Oh, come on, an ordinary pebble, you have just polished it with something glittery and you want 20 rupees, you should be a thief. And they called me by all names and they went. Appa just got it from the boy, put it inside from where he has taken, and he said, okay, you can now go run a wash, eat your heart fill, drink water, stay hydrated. And Appa did not give any answer to the question at all. The boy was very, very curious. He did not have his food. He just went back behind his father and started pestering him. Appa, you have not given me an answer, Appa. Father said the question was very philosophical, right? We'll wait till next Saturday. Anyway, Saturdays and Sundays you don't work. Next Saturday, right? The boy was so eager, he couldn't even have proper sleep throughout the week. He didn't eat properly because his question is becoming more and more mysterious. Father does not seem to answer the question, but the father looks as if he is very sure of the answer but wouldn't part with the answer. That's all. That's exactly what the teacher should create inside a class. The curiosity of the child is aroused, as a result of which the child knows, the teacher knows the answer but will not part with the answer. As a result of which the child will start searching for the answer. Now, Appa would not part with the answer. Next Saturday morning, even before Appa and Amma woke up, the little boy got up and he rushed to his father and said, Appa, you are ready to answer the question. Aren't you going to answer the question? You already taken 8 days. And father said, no, the project is not yet over. He brought back the same object, and this time he said, why don't you go stand near the museum in our little town? Okay, you go there, 9 o'clock it opens. You go stand there. Again, you don't open your mouth, you can carry water. If you want something, you can carry your snacks also. I did not want you to carry any food because the place was so dirty, and while eating, the food may get contaminated. But if you feel, you can carry a sandwich or whatever you feel like, because a museum, outdoors of a museum will be very clean, right? But only thing is, stand there. If anybody asks a question, you should not have food in your mouth. So be very guarded. But you don't open your mouth, you just say the same thing, holding this in your hand, okay? The museum opens by 9 o'clock and closes by 5, you will be there. Come back and tell me whom you came upon and what did they tell. The boy has an entirely different experience now. He goes there, stands there, holding this, and people go past him not like those people, the people whom he saw in the marketplace when he was standing in certainly not a becoming ambience. Here the ambience is much better. People look at him with respect, and they look into his hands and ask, what, it seems to be so beautiful, so unique, so lovely, it's glittering. He wouldn't let them touch the object. They just stand away and look at the object, and they make an assessment of it, and they tell him, it's so beautiful, would you like to sell it? The boy just smiles at them and nods. And what could be its price? The boy just says to. Immediately they say, 2,000? Not bad at all. 2,000. But you are a little boy. For 2,000 rupees you have got something in your hand? It can't be original, whatever it may be. It can't be. People will not trust a little boy of 10 years to handle this. No, you are charging too much. But everyone stopped, and no one talked about 20 rupees. Everyone talked about something in thousands. The boy just put his fingers up, and by 5 o'clock, the boy was tired. Once the museum got closed, he ran back home. And now the mother was also very excited to know the experience of the little boy, and the boy just narrated the whole experience to his father and mother. And he said, Appa, I don't understand. The object is the same. I am the same person. But people did not say 20. They said 2,000 rupees. Appa, what is the value of life? Father said, no, the project is not yet over. It's a highly philosophical question. Wait for another week and I'll help you out of it. The next week came. Again, the boy was extremely excited. He was rather feverish and he wanted an answer. And now the father gave him this and said, this week you're going to an entirely different place. It's not the marketplace. It's not the museum. You're going to a jeweler's shop, a leading jeweler who sells diamonds. Okay? And it's a bigger shop. All the staff of the shop, they arrive late, but the owner, the founder of the shop, he will be there by 8:30. See to that you are there by 8:25. Stand there. You're not going to give any answer. Again, you will stand there, hold it in your hand and see. Once you get that experience, you need not even wait till 5 o'clock. Once you meet the person and get the experience, you can run back home and then you can have your breakfast. The boy was so excited, he stood there even before the shop was opened. Let me tell you again, make a note of it. He stood there even before the shop was opened, even before the shop owner, who owns an empire of property. Even before he could come, the boy stood there, prim and proper, holding this in his hand, with eyes brimming with excitement, face beaming with smile, as if he is going to get the answer today. Then came a beautiful imported car. Out of the car came down the owner of the shop. He was really impressed to see the little boy standing there. And you find the driver coming there and opening the shutters of the shop. He waited, and the owner of the shop, very clean, very neat, even at 9 o'clock the shop has to open, but the man was there by 8:50, the little boy was there by 8:45. The man was so impressed to find, he may be a customer, he may be just a passerby, but yet the boy is waiting even before the arrival of the owner. So the man was very excited. He just put his hands around the shoulder. He's yet to talk. He collected the little boy into the shop and offered a seat for the boy. The little boy had never been offered a seat by any other person, but here the boy was offered a seat, and he asked the driver also to throw open all the windows, switch on the AC, make the little boy comfortable, and asked whether he would like to have something to drink because he should have arrived very early, had nothing to eat. So the boy is treated with absolute courtesy and respect. The boy finds it very good. There is a sense of well-being in him, and he puts down the little box in which he carries whatever it is his father has been giving him all the 3 weeks. He puts it down, and the man looks at it and gives a very small smile and starts talking to himself, pulls out a magnifying glass, observes it, and again looks back at the boy and says, can I meet your father? Where did you get it from? Must be from your father, right? How much does it cost? The boy just puts out 2, and the man says, 20 lakhs? 20 lakhs is too little for this. It's too little for it. It's something very, very precious. Maybe you are a little kid and you do not know its value. That's why he asked whether you can bring your father. The boy was so excited, he immediately grabs a little box and runs for his life, goes home and throws himself on the lap of his father and starts crying bitterly because he doesn't know what to do. He is so excited. And Appa was expecting this kind of a response from his son. He wanted the boy not to go through experience but to grow through experience. Every week the growth was, the metamorphosis was taking place, the evolution was taking place, and that little boy now asked his father and mother, what do I mean by this? What did I experience? How I was treated in the marketplace, how I was treated in the museum, and how am I treated now? I am treated with utmost courtesy, with respect. The person offered me a chair, the person offered me something to eat and drink. He cared about my physical comfort, and with very politely he observed this. Very professionally he observed what I have got, and the first sentence he told me was, he didn't ask me what is the price, he didn't ask me where do you get it from, but he just asked, can I meet your father? Right? And then when I just said this, how much does it cost? He said 20 lakhs, it's too little. Why don't I meet your father? It's too precious for to be bought in within 20 lakhs. Appa, what is happening around me? And Appa didn't say anything. He collected the most precious stone he had given. The boy never even knew that it was so precious. That's exactly how we are all. We don't even know how precious we are. We don't even know how unique we are. We don't even know how we cannot be cloned. We cannot be, no, there is nobody to proxy you. You are the one and only person upon the planet who is entitled to do what you have been asked to do. You have been designed, you have been wired only that way. And where do you sell your all these skills? The little boy, the father just held the hand of the little boy, looked into his eyes. The boy's eyes were welling up with tears. The father just wiped away the tears and smilingly said, son, you have got the answer for the question you have been asking all the 3 weeks. The value of life depends on where you put yourself, amongst whom you put yourself. Maybe a message I can give you. I ask you, where are you going to market your talent? Where are you going to market yourself? To market your talent, to market your skills, you have to know that you are going to sell yourself to the highest bidder who is yet to be born. You have to quote. It is you. Remember, people can give you salary for the work you do. People cannot pay you. You are different from the salary which you draw. Most of us mistake us for the salary we get. We are different. We cannot be confined within digits. We cannot be confined within the date of birth and date of death. You cannot be sandwiched. You are too big to be sandwiched between your date of birth and your date of death. You are too big for that. You are enormous. And if you understand that, that is the value. That is the value, and that's what the father told the little boy. But again, we all have theory in our class. We have practical to verify what the theory states is right or wrong in the lab. But life does not want your theory. Life does not want your practical. Right wants your application. That's why in the first session I asked you, how relevant is your degree in 2020? And can you face the challenges of 2020? That is the relevance. That is your market value. How bold you are, how courageous you are, how brave you are to face yourself. And after facing yourself, you face the people around you. And remember, today, that is on 29th of July 2020, when you are just 4 or 5 days away from launching yourself. It's like a rocket. It's mounted there, a spaceship which has been mounted, and it's ready to take off after you complete your course. But everything has to be tested and retested, and test drive should be done. Everything will be ready provided you know where the target is, where your destiny is. You should not take away any other route. For which, for the next 2 years, whom do you allow to surround you? What kind of books do you read? What kind of talk you listen to? All these matter so that you increase your self-worth and the value of your skills. So start today. Now this is something which I wanted you to know. Again, I am dividing this into 2 parts. One is realizing the value, your market value. Remember, it's a value that keeps on increasing provided you want to increase the value. It's not value added. You add it for once and then you stop at it. No. You keep on increasing your value so that people find it extremely difficult to know your value, to decide your value and calculate it in terms of salary you get or money you get. You're something more than that. You're beyond that. As I always tell my children, when everybody says this is a dead end, We don't go anywhere else. Like 2020, the pandemic has come. It's a dead end. We can't move out of this. You have been just put inside your house. Your mind has not been imprisoned. It's still free. The body may be confined to a certain territory, but what about the mind? It doesn't have any territory at all. If that is the case, I used to tell my children, when they talk about dead ends, I cannot go beyond that. I'll say, please, why don't you peep behind the beyond? If people say this is the beyond, just take some time and peep behind it. Maybe you see a wonderland behind that. People who stop well ahead of their goals, they miss. People who stop with their goals, they miss. People who make their goals as rolling benchmarks, like all our sprinters in Olympic Games, they start before everything and they stop after everything has stopped. After everything, after even the victory line, they keep running because they are so much charged with their passion that it is not 100 meters, it's not 400 meters, it's not 800 meters, it's not hurdle, it's not marathon, because in their mind they run a better marathon, they move beyond it. The next one, this is again, you just talk about yourself and yourself and yourself. Have you ever thought, you may be in a private university, you may be paying for your education, right? Whatever it is. Have you ever thought, every Indian in this country is paying directly or indirectly to have you educated? That's why it becomes conscious evolution. It comes in the form of your public transportation. It comes in the form of your teachers. It comes in the form of your scholarship. It comes in some other form which you may not find, which you may not feel, for which you may not even be thankful, because you do not know. If you know, you would rather be thankful for every little thing that is offered to you, but you are totally unconscious. You do not know. Fine. Because you do not know, you are not thankful. Every individual, be it a farmer, be it a laborer, be it a doctor, be it an engineer, be it a housewife, everyone is paying directly or indirectly through taxes or in some other mean to have you educated, because their dream gets realized only when you start dreaming. If that is the case, your business does not stop with you evolving into a better being. If you remember what I said in the first part of the complete session, you will remember, fine, it has to be so progressive, it has to, your conscious evolution has to become a kind of genetic coding in your mind. You feel, you breathe your dream so often, so intensely, that your dream is not different from you. You, the dreamer and the dream become one. When the dreamer and the dream becomes one, anybody who sees you will feel as if it is a mobile dream walking here and there. It should not be, you should not be explaining and describing and narrating your dream. You should look your dream. If you start looking your dream, you will not just travel alone, you will travel along with your parents, you will travel along with your batchmates, you will travel along with the society, you will travel along with the country, as a result of which, as you keep rising above the benchmark, your country will automatically be following you. Or it doesn't follow you, it goes with you. It goes with you. If that is the case, I would like to wind up this session with another little story. First time I pushed you only facts, and this time I give you incidences so that you can combine both and remember them better. If that is the case, there is a little boy, and the little boy is a champion in running. He visits, he is now in the university like you, he comes back running to his old school, and he is very thankful to his first standard teacher, because he lost his father when he was hardly 6 years old. His mother could not send him to school. It was this teacher who was young at that time, who is pretty old now. It was this teacher who gave him education and allowed him to grow. Right. Now the boy comes back and he is being applauded by everybody. Everybody would like to have a selfie with him, because he is an old student who has come back and he is a university representative. He is a good sprinter, and there are chances of him representing the country in the future world game. Okay. The boy comes and he challenges everybody. He runs faster than everyone, even the students who are being trained to become better runners. He overtakes everybody in no second. Even before other people put their first foot down, the boy has already reached. It doesn't mean it's a foul. He runs faster than them. He runs faster than light. He runs faster than thought. Okay. I'm exaggerating it so that you can count his speed. Now what happens? Everybody claps and everybody cheers and everybody would like to honor him. They are so happy, excepting the first standard teacher. He just sits there and looks through the boy. The boy is so worried. He comes and just kneels down, puts his hand on the lap of the teacher, looks at the face of the teacher and asks, aren't you happy? Aren't you responsible for my growth? You are the person who sponsored me. You are still sponsoring me. You were and you are still sponsoring me. Whatever I do, it's all because of you. I grew up to be a mighty tree because you nourished my soil, my roots. Why aren't you happy? You don't even smile. The teacher said, I would like you to run a race with people whom I bring now. If you win in that, I will smile and bless you. The boy is really surprised. Is he going to bring 2 more contestants who can run faster than him? When he turns around, the teacher brings an old man who is easily 70 plus and a lady who has lost her vision when she was in her mid-50s. Now she is 70 years. He brings these 2 people and says that you will have to run a race along with these 2 people, right? The boy cannot run now. The boy has to carry them because they have already put their hands on his shoulder for some kind of mobility, because a person who is 70 plus is very frail of his strength and the other person is visually challenged. He collects them both in his hand and now he starts running an entirely different kind of race, the race which he has never run in his life. Very slowly he has to take a step and undo it, come back again, take a step, because these people do not go with him as quickly as he moves. Very slowly. What took just 10 seconds for him now takes 20 to 30 minutes. An unending journey, and he comes to the victory post. And he helps them also to go past that. Turns around. The village does not clap, the school does not clap, nobody claps, but the teacher, the first standard teacher, gets up and gives him one complete clap, runs and hugs him tight, and he said, you got education not to run a race all alone. You got education so that you'll take along with you people who did not get this chance. People who did not get a chance to, like you, to get into VIT. People who did not get the luxury of enjoying the ambience of VIT, being protected, insulated and guarded by teachers, so that you become a total finished product. Go out with the brand name of VIT. Fine? So these 2 sessions, put them together and think it over. The second session is the application part of it. The first session was the theory, the practical, right? You may be an electronics student, you know how to fix everything, but when there is a shutdown at home or the fuse pops, you just sit and wait for your father to come and fix it right. No, life asks for application. Theory does not come into practice, practice does not come and talk about theory. Only the application, when things are challenging, as we say, when the situation grows tough, the tough people grow through that situation and they just don't go through the situation. So I come back to Veda ma'am. I think it's time for questions. Do we have? Yes? So